So this is an update of a presentation I did for the San Benito Planning Commission, County Planning Commission, back in December, and an earlier presentation to the Economic Development Group out at the golf club, and that was about a year ago. But this is the latest information that we have. When we talk about broadband and broadband development, it always comes down to speeds. And speed is about two things. It's about the service you personally are getting, how fast is your broadband service, but it's also about capacity. How many people at one time can get that speed at the same time too. So it's speed and capacity. And the speeds people talk about range from DSL level speeds up to gigabit and beyond. The difference between these levels, when you're down around here, down in the AOL, you've got mail range. That's DSL and dial-up. It's what we had 20 years ago and what people still have. A lot of people in our region still have today. When you move up the chain to around the 6 to 10 megabit range, you can start doing things like Facebook, social media. 25 megabits, that's an important benchmark. That's the level of service that Netflix says you need to be able to watch one high definition stream. It's also a level, and I'll get into that later, that has been adopted by several government agencies as a basic benchmark. You start to move up the chain, 100 megabits is where we are today, and I'll get a little deeper into that. And then a gigabit is right now is really industrial class internet. It's what you need to run a major business. People have gigabit class service at home. It tends to be the residential version of gigabit. And you want me to get more into the differences between commercial and residential service, industrial grade service. But gigabit from a consumer perspective basically means all the bandwidth you want, all the bandwidth you can use. Right now, there's very few households in our region. I don't know if there's any in our region. Very few households in our state that actually would make use of a gigabit. But it's a way of saying we want broadband, all the broadband we need. 6 megabits down, 1 megabit up is the basic California standard. There's a bill sitting in the Assembly today, their final day of the session, that would raise that standard to fiber speeds, but it appears to be going down to defeat. AT&T doesn't like it. Frontier is ambivalent about it. They're another major telephone company, and the cable companies, Charter and Comcast particularly, don't like raising the limits either, because if you define 6 down and 1 up as all the broadband anybody needs, then you don't have subsidies coming in to provide competition for the existing providers. You don't have all the inconveniences that go with that. So they have tried very hard to maintain 6 down and 1 up as the basic California standard, and it looks like it's going to be that way at least for the next year. FCC has a minimum level of 10 down, 1 up, which is about the same. It's the 1 up you need to keep your eye on, because it's the upload speed that tells you really how good the underlying infrastructure is. The USDA, Netflix, the FCC, and now the CPUC have all identified 25 down and 3 up as the minimum necessary, the minimum quantity of broadband necessary for a household to function. And even as the CPUC adopted that, commissioners were saying, these were numbers that they were based on research that had been done last year. Commissioners were saying, based on our experience with COVID, when you have 2 kids in the household learning online and 2 parents working from home all at the same time, 25/3 isn't going to do it. 100 down, 20 up is a standard that Jessica Rosenworcel, who's a Democratic FCC commissioner, has pegged as necessary. And then, of course, there's the gigabit standard. The FCC defines it as 1 gigabit or 1,000 megabits down, 500 megabits up. It's the ups. It's an odd way of doing it, but I assume they had their reasons. So what do we need? Freddie mentioned that Monterey Bay Economic Partnership, working with the CCBC, conducted a study a couple of years ago that the short version is that the 100 down, 20 up is the minimum necessary that households in our region needed. And it was interesting working on the study because we went into it assuming with, the kind of, you form your hypothesis, and we assumed going into it that we were going to find different levels of need in different parts of the region. That a software developer in Santa Cruz might need, or was going to need a lot more than a rancher in Bitterwater. Turned out that hypothesis was a successful experiment. We proved the hypothesis false. It isn't true. It doesn't matter where you live. That rancher in Bitterwater is using the same online tools to run his business as a software developer up in Santa Cruz. His family is watching the same things on Netflix. His kids are doing the same homework. So it's it doesn't matter where you live in this region. You have the same basic needs. And that baseline level, that minimum level of broadband service that we identified in this region is 100 down, 20 up. And that'll take care of most people. Some businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, can get by with that. But as you start to move from medium into larger sized businesses, you need even more. So we set as a regional standard 100 down, 20 up. And that's a level of broadband service that has been shown by several studies to support economic development as well as just basic social and human needs in our economy these days. So what do you have in San Benito County? This map is kind of it's a tool that we developed here in this region. The CPUC adopted it. We call it our heat map. It's a heat map that shows where the opportunities are for improving broadband. In other words, where you see the red and the orange and the yellow, those are more densely populated areas that lack service at the levels identified. So what you're looking at this map is you're seeing areas in San Benito County that don't have access even to that low standard that California legislature has set for us. If there's green, they still lack it, but it's not such a densely populated area. If you're trying to bring internet service providers in to provide service, to build infrastructure, this is a valuable tool to use because it shows them where the opportunities are to reach a lot of people with better service and not have to build out, say, to the entire county. Be nice if they would, but we're looking for those hot spots. So what you see here in the Aromas area and up in the area north of Hollister, these are two priority areas that we have established as a consortium, working with the CPUC as needing broadband services. CPUC has identified those areas as well as this general area down here, south of Hollister, as priority areas for CPUC funding of broadband projects. But anyway, I'm going to kind of flip through these a little quickly. When you go from 6 megabits, the 6 megabit standard to the 10 megabit standard, not much changes. Most of the same areas have service at that level as had it before. 25.3, you're starting to see some areas come on that don't have some more census blocks come on the map. 100 down, 20 up, a couple more, but then you go to the gigabit level and virtually nowhere in the county has access to that. So where does that put San Benito County? we looked at what the average Californian has access to. The average Californian has access to two major broadband providers. A telephone company that provides a minimum of 30 megabits down, 5 megabits up, and a cable company that provides a minimum of 400 megabits down, 20 megabits up. And those bracket our regional standard of 100 megabits down, 20 up. So the average Californian has access to service that we would consider as a consortium and as a region, we would consider adequate. We call that a C. We say, we went and we've said, okay, if you have average infrastructure, average service available to you, your census block, your community, you have a C, you get a C grade for broadband. If the best you can do is 100 down, 20 up, that's a passing grade, but it barely passes. That's a D. If you don't even have access to that, it's an F. You fail. Or, as we sometimes call it, you're fundable. A and B, if you have better than average service and really great service, those get you the A's and the B's. So we put together a wireline report card. And this is up on our website. It's up there for the entire state if you want to take a look at it. If you look at places like Silicon Valley, those are A and B communities. They have great broadband service up there. Los Angeles is pretty average, and that's not coincidental. Pretty much whatever LA has is going to end up being the statewide average, because LA County has about a quarter of the state's population. It just goes that way. But LA is pretty average. Gilroy, on the other hand, is a D. Their service there barely is barely passing it. They have access, and the most part, to 100 down, 20 up, but only a few areas in Gilroy have anything better. San Benito County. This is how it lays out here. I still haven't figured out what that area of D down in the South County area is. I'm assuming it's somebody has pulled service into a ranch or something like that. It ends up in our database that way. Most of the county is an F, either having failing service below the 100 down, 20 up level, or in some cases no service at all. In the Hollister area, there's a mix of service. San Juan Bautista is barely passing, and the rest of the county, though, for the most part, Aromas is about the same as San Juan Bautista. The rest of the county is a failing grade. The way that stacks up against other communities in our region, and the way it's changed over time, is Hollister is pretty much average now compared to other Californian communities. Last year it was failing. It was at an F+. We have several communities in San Benito County that have come up from failing grades last year. The reason for that is that Charter Communications has lit up what they call their gigabit service. It's 930 megabits, 940 megabits down, 35 megabits up. They claim to provide it everywhere in their footprint. Our experience is that might be a little optimistic, but we feel fairly confident that Charter can provide at least 100 down and 20 up in most of its footprint if people are willing to pay for it. So that's why the grades in San Benito County went overall from an F to a D, and in some communities, Hollister in particular, it went up significantly. Compares to other cities and counties in our region. Monterey County on the whole is staying steady. It stayed steady at the D+ level. Santa Cruz County is slowly coming up as it becomes more and more integrated into Silicon Valley economically. Santa Cruz County is broadband infrastructure is also coming up. Salinas and Watsonville are both in the C+ category. Watsonville came up from an F+, same reason Hollister did, because of charter upgrading their plant. So the question comes, what can be done about it? And I'm just going to go through a couple slides here that show what we have been working on in the region, Central Coast Broadband Consortium. Keeping in mind, there's really no such thing as a Central Coast Broadband Consortium. It's the individual efforts of all the people that participate in it. In 2009, and Joel was the key guy behind this. In 2009, we put together a proposal for a 3-county fiber optic project to be funded by the Obama stimulus program, the ARA program, 2009 and 2010. That didn't get funded. We got a commitment from the state. We didn't get the big commitment from the feds. So it didn't move forward as such. But the plans we put together, the work that Joel and a lot of other people did, we've been using those to guide our development over the last 10 years. One of the key projects that we were able to get through, this was led by UCSC, was to build a fiber route from Santa Cruz down through Watsonville, Salinas, and ending up in Soledad, where it jumps on major fiber routes that run up and down the railroad right away, north and south through California. From that, several other providers have started using it. You can see it here. If you want me to dive into any of these in particular, I can, but it's this project and then the projects that have spun off of it, as well as several others that we've worked on. Those have played a major role in upgrading infrastructure in our region. Something else we've done is we've come up with a set of policies, model policies that local jurisdictions can consider. Things like installing conduit anytime you open up a road. It's called shadow conduit, dig once policies. These have been adopted in several communities. Other communities, Salinas particularly, but also Santa Cruz, have been working hard on trying to bring 5G deployment, the next generation of mobile service into the region. And then Hollister, Watsonville, and Salinas are, as well as Santa Cruz in another way, but Hollister, Watsonville, and Salinas have all built out in one way, shape, or form municipal fiber networks. Hollister has a conduit network and fiber in that conduit that serves the city and the county, and is a great resource that we would love to see developed. It's a genuine opportunity. Watsonville and Salinas, Watsonville particularly, but Salinas is in the process of firing theirs up. Watsonville particularly has used both its municipal fiber and its access to that fiber route that UCSC had built to start to light up businesses in town. And then finally, what we've been working on is trying to is working on the soft side of things, and the soft side of things can also produce hard results. Hartnell College got a grant from the CPUC. We helped them get to build out computer centers and provide digital literacy training. Gonzales has a broadband for all initiative. This started 2 years ago when they went out with an RFP asking for providers to give them proposals to provide internet service to every household in town. That service would be funded by the city. It would be a free service to the residents, and people in Gonzales would be hooked up to the internet the same way everybody in Gonzales has electricity, has water, has sewer service. They would also have internet service. That a lot of negotiations went on, and then last fall, long before this COVID stuff started, Gonzales signed a contract with T-Mobile working with the school district there to distribute hotspots, one hotspot, and they kind of, in some cases, have gone 2 or 3 hotspots per household, depending on need. But the basic idea was every household in town gets a hotspot, T-Mobile hotspot that can provide at least 25 down and 3 up in broadband service. The city pays for it. The city is funding this for 2 years. It's managed by the city in partnership with the school district. The city's also providing hotspots and support to folks who live outside the city limits, but whose kids go to school in Gonzales, as well as some of the labor camps in the immediately surrounding area. So it's a project that's costing Gonzales, I think it's about $200,000 a year to do, and it's lit up everybody in town now. They were ready to go when COVID hit. Everybody else has been scrambling to keep up with what they've already done. The other thing that's been done in this region, one of the other things that's been done in this region, is this again was led by the city of Gonzales. Monterey County jumped in on it when Charter Communications wanted to buy Time Warner Networks, wanted to take over the Time Warner cable systems in California. They needed CPUC permission. However, the charter systems in Monterey County, unlike the ones in Santa Cruz and San Benito County, the charter systems in Monterey County were all analog. You could get 36 channels of TV for $107 a month, and that was the deal. No internet, no pay-per-view, nothing. It was just the old school analog TV, and that was in North Monterey County and in the Salinas Valley. Monterey Peninsula and Salinas have Comcast. So City of Gonzales went to the CPUC and challenged Charter's right to buy Time Warner. It was a multi-billion-dollar transaction, and City of Gonzales and Monterey County stood in the way. And out of that process, we got a commitment, which was largely fulfilled from Charter. It was enforced by the CPUC to come into Monterey County and upgrade their systems. In the process of doing that, they had to upgrade their infrastructure all over the region to support, tens of thousands of new users. So again, these are things that the CCBC can do, that people can do working under the CCBC umbrella. So that's my little spiel. If you have any questions, or if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to do so.
Could you expand a little bit more? You talked on the one of the last slides about opportunity regarding the city of Hollister with their system. What opportunity is there? Okay,
so this is something we've looked at a couple of times, and the city and Sacramento, I think, knows more about this than anybody else on this call. City of Hollister and County of San Benito have built a conduit fiber optic network, conduit-based fiber optic network in Hollister and into some of the surrounding areas. That is a resource. The conduit is a resource. The fiber itself is a resource. And if the City of Hollister and the County of San Benito were so inclined, it could be leveraged it could be used like the city of Watsonville uses its fiber. They lease it out to companies that come in and use it to serve businesses. They use it as a basis to attract other infrastructure. There's a reason that fiber route that runs from Santa Cruz to Soledad goes right through Watsonville City Hall. It's because that infrastructure is there. When you start to put these pieces together and put pieces on the table, there's a lot of things that can be done. We've kicked around a lot of ideas over the years, using, trying to pull together private investment, CPUC money, federal money, and local fiber and conduit assets, trying to pull those together into projects that can light up cities like Hollister, the same way that's been done in downtown Santa Cruz, downtown Watsonville and out throughout Watsonville's business district, and also soon to happen, hopefully if COVID doesn't slow it down this year, in downtown Salinas.